Hello artists. We're going to work on creating value scales, but we're going to use the value scale in the first box probably more as a review of what you've done before, but then we're going to talk about some different kinds of value scales that you can create using your pencil or your materials in a different fashion. So hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, those are the three that we will focus on in 6th grade. To create your value scale, you're going to want to get a pencil when you start, and very lightly you're going to work in the first box so that hopefully you can barely see your value. It should be the lightest value of all. Then you're going to work your way to the last box, creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different values with your pencil. So you're going to shade this in using your pencil, and of course the very end is going to be the darkest one. So you're not going to want any white spaces left, and you're going to want to press on the pencil hard enough that you're going to get a dark value. One way that you can accomplish a darker value is by going in different directions with your pencil on this one. Not every single one will work that way, but on this one it will. Keep in mind that your boxes should be colored evenly. You shouldn't have like a dark area in the box somewhere and then a lighter area in the same box. The whole value in that box should be the same. So you may have to work at that a little bit. All right, once you have completed your value scale in pencil above, then you're going to create a hatching value scale. Hatching is actually just making lines short and all in the same direction. So you would have your hatching lines all either horizontal or all vertical or all diagonal, but all in the same direction. As you get to the other end, you'll obviously have darker lines, and they will also be a lot closer together. They may overlap some, but they're still going in the same direction. So this will take some time to fill this in, but short little strokes. So lots of little dark, short lines going in the same direction on this one. So light to dark also with hatching. Now cross hatching, you would go more than one direction. So again, still hatching, but crisscrossing the line some. So you'll have some that go on top of others in a different direction, like so. And I probably got a little too dark there, but hopefully on the camera you can see this. I'm hoping I'm not too light because I know it may not pick up some of those otherwise, so I'm trying to make it just a bit more than I would normally probably on a light area. And then the same thing here on the cross hatching here, you'll do your, and you'll have to do a lot more because obviously you got to fill this in quite dark. And you can go as many directions as you want. So I did both diagonal directions on the darkest one, and then I can also add horizontal and vertical lines to help fill in. You should not have anything on the edge that looks like you forgot it. So make sure you go all the way to the edges here. Filling it in completely with hatching lines, cross-hatching lines, sorry. Trying to work and think at the same time and talk and record. Okay, so light to dark there as well. So the next one, of course, you will have probably fewer crisscrossing lines, but enough to make your medium dark value. Then I'm going to move on to the stippling. Stippling is actually creating dots. So you're going to just fill it very sparsely with the first one, and then of course this one will be full of lots of little dots. Figure out a way to do it so it's not making a lot of noise. All right, I'm going to finish this up and I will show it to you when I have it completed. All right, you can see that I chose to do a skinny marker for my different medium, not in pencil, and I chose to do hatching. You can do hatching, cross-hatching, or stippling in this final box, just not in pencil. Another good option would be a colored pencil. The crayons would still be okay. It would just be a little harder because of their thickness as well. All right, so after you finish this, we're going to be planning a project to use these 3 in a work of art. So on the back, think about a composition that would work. Thinking about maybe doing an animal, because an animal would be fairly easy to do hatching and cross hatching. And then stippling could be part of the background or some of the details on the elements that are in the background anyway. It wouldn't have to be everything. So I'm going to show you a couple of projects that I have done in the past with cross hatching and hatching. This woolly mammoth is my artwork, and you can see where I did just hatching on the fur here in the front, but then in some of the areas where his fur is more matted and maybe blowing in the wind, it is more cross hatching look to it. So, and especially where I had to do some shading and shadows, the darker areas, I was gonna go back to this, the darker areas, I did more cross hatching in the background. This has very little stippling, but some here at the bottom of these sort of foothills. So there is a little bit in there. It's kind of hard to spot unless you know where to look. So that is one. The other one I have is strictly just stippling, so you could see that this is created just using dots, and I'll kind of zoom it in there. Hopefully you can see some of that. But the other thing I want to point out is I've added not just red to the watermelon, I've also added in some pink for some shading, and on the leaves over here you might notice that there's dark green, light green, and then a little bit of yellow on some of the highlights. Anywhere that there's like a lighter spot, like a little white bright spot from a shine or a glare on the fruit, I lessened my stippling so you get the lighter value there. And I did add a little bit of tan or a light brown anyway along the edges for some shadowing. And my plums kind of have the little dark shadows in the divot there, that little valley. And then my grapes and the edge of my watermelon also have some mixing on them. So you're going to plan, like I said, something to do on your planning sheet. What materials you're going to use. So if you're going to use pencils, markers. If you're going to use markers, just keep in mind that you can't bang the marker tips too much or you'll ruin them, and then you won't be able to use them at all. Because if you all do that, then of course the markers are gone, and then your project is going to have to be something else completely. So just take care of when you're dotting not to over press that down, just gentle on the tips. And then write a sentence why that idea is interesting to you. This will be signed by the teacher before you start, remember, so we will initial it to the side here, and then you'll get a piece of project paper and you may begin. You may want to think about what size of paper, because if you're going to have to do a lot of this stippling, this is not a real large size. Now this one is a little bit bigger, but the drawing paper and cross hatching with that size is not quite so laborious. So anyway, have fun and pick something that you would like to do with cross hatching, hatching, and stippling. I'm sorry, one more thing. I almost forgot to show you this. So the 4-3-2-1 for your grading, I almost forgot to tell you what you had to do to get your 4-3-2-1s. So if you want to get a good grade, you want to shoot for at least a 3. A 1, though, on your artwork would be that you have one value present and at least one technique was attempted. A 2 would be that the student used at least 2 values, but you only used 2 of those techniques. You may have some minor errors with it, and then a 3, the value drawing has 4 values, okay, light, medium, dark, whatever the 4 values are, and it's easy to tell that by, obviously. And then you have 3 techniques, so all 3 are present in your artwork and easy to find. And then lastly, the value drawing has at least 4 values, and all 3 techniques are really well done. So if you want to shoot for a 4, a 3, we don't really want a 2 or a 1, but that way you'll know what it is that you need to do.